Welcome to Copenhagen and good afternoon to the Water Show. Here are 3 facts about Denmark. Well, actually it's the happiest place on earth, right? And there are 2 reasons for that. The minimum wage they have is $20 an hour and the working rate per week is just 33 hours a week. What about that? Number 2 is the health system. No matter whether you are poor or rich, regardless to what you have, the entire health system is free. It's the same with the education. How cool is that? And finally, Denmark is ranked 2nd in the Global Sustainable Index because as first country in the world, they set goals to be fossil-free by 2050. And Copenhagen aims to be the first carbon-neutral city in 2 years by 2025. What the heck are you doing here?
Oh, hi Björn. Well, actually, I've heard that Denmark has the best bathing water quality in the full Baltic and North Sea. Really? And actually one of the best ones in Europe. And I was just figuring out if it would be worth it, maybe give it a plunge.
Let's go.
Yeah. But actually, before taking that plunge, there's a reason why Denmark has an incredible bathing water quality. And it has a lot to do with the way they treat their water, they treat their wastewater, and they manage their water. And those best practices will be shared this week at the International Water Association World Congress, which is held here in Copenhagen. And that is where we are heading right now to get to know from these 10,000 water professionals what can be replicated and what we can learn from what Denmark has been doing right. Hey! Now that we just arrived at the IWA, we got equipped with a nice badge, which means we can go in and raise a lot of questions. Actually, we want to find out what is the utility of the future and will there be a utility in the future? So that sounds like a stupid question, but I'm sure the people here will have very clever answers. So let's look at what they think about that.
Will there be utilities in the future? Definitely and clearly a yes.
Oh yes, we do.
We definitely need utilities in the future.
Absolutely, I think we need.
I think that's why we're here.
Yes, of course.
We will always need water utilities.
Yes.
Of course.
We do indeed.
Yeah, yes, for sure you need them.
Yes, of course.
Yes. Definitely.
Oh yes, we do.
Oh my gosh, what a question. Yes, of course.
Absolutely yes.
Yes, of course. Sure.
Yes.
100%. Why not?
Yes. I believe that.
I think yes.
Of course. Probably not.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Yes. Yes, I think we will need them.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Of course.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Yes, of course.
Do they have to improve themselves on a scale from 0 to 10? I would definitely say a 6.
I would say 7.
Up to 10. I'll probably give it a 7 in terms of improvement.
I think 10. In Cape Town, 10.
10.
6 or 7.
A good 5.
6 to 7, something at least.
7.
I would go for 7.
I would say 5.
10.
I think it's 10.
5 or 6. It's a solid 9.
I would say it's a 7.
8.
8 or 9.
I would say a 7. 8.
10.
5.
A 10.
8.
Maybe 6, 7, 9, 10.
I think 2 should be okay-ish.
Take way too long. They're always working on pilots, again pilots.
And it takes a long time before full scale is realized.
I would say 2.
2.
That's low.
Well, they have to improve to an 8 at least. 10 would be lovely.
From 6 to 9 or 10. Let's put it at 7.
Maybe 5.
They need to improve their digital skills.
There's a lot of old technology, old stuff laying around.
I think we need a closer collaboration.
There's no digital management at the moment in water.
It's not sustainable as we do it now, and we have to do it in a very different way.
A lot of that been done, but we have a lot of to do.
Utilities today are very central and the future might be very distributed.
I believe that utilities will be more monitoring and following what is going up rather than being the producers of the water and the treaters of the wastewaters themselves.
With new technologies, they can broaden their abilities, what they can do for the customers.
We really need to work hard on to make things clear.
The changes we have seen in the last decade or in the last century is going to be so much less when compared to what we will be seeing in the next century.
The nature of that change will be so different depending on where in the world you are. and what that utility is trying to do at the moment.
When you are going really for decentralization, you also take a risk when it comes to help.
A few years ago we went through a massive drought and we didn't have any water in Cape Town. We were all showering over buckets and using that to flush our water because there just wasn't any drinking water in the city.
Probably some of them have already done quite some efforts, and so it's difficult to say that all of them have to improve for the same amount.
If you look at how much water is lost on their way to the consumer, it's a big number. If you look at how much water is disposed into the ocean without treatment, that's a big number. And if you look at just how much better we have to get at handling our water, that takes a lot of improvement.
We have limited resources in our world, so we need to cope with many factors: environmental change, economy change.
We have to be faster with procurement, faster with planning, faster with decision making.
That was a statement by Erverband, which is a utility.
We still have so many challenges to tackle.
I think you can do a lot more in terms of sustainability, about how you look at water.
They are all doing a great job, including me.
Hey Björn, I don't know if you noticed, but when you did your interviews, there was one word that came quite often, and that was the word
challenge.
Yeah. And I was thinking, if there are those challenges which are identified and everybody talks about it, shouldn't we start looking for solutions?
Yeah, we should do, and we should ask, the good pupil. Maybe we can find a couple of utilities to help us to understand that better.
Oh.
But before that, maybe we can find a place to sit down. What do you think?
Hey, look just here. Doesn't that sound like a good background?
Perfect. Thanks for inviting us.
You're welcome. Welcome to DHI and welcome to IWA.
Give us a brief introduction. What is DHI about?
So DHI is a global company working with water. We provide solutions to innovate and manage water in all its ways, from sea to rivers to urban waters.
How do you do that? How do you help them? How do you help the utilities?
For example, we are helping the city of Copenhagen to forecast the water quality in the harbor, so you can actually swim in the harbor today. Help the utilities reduce the amount of CSO spills.
Okay.
And we provide forecasting systems so they can proactively be prepared for the risk of flooding.
What is a global company? How many people are working for DHI?
So global for us is that we are around 1,200 people. We are located in 27 countries, all very dedicated to water, working on water issues, but also a lot of developers innovating and offering new digital solutions for managing water.
Thanks a lot again for the invitation, and I'm pretty sure we will see us a little bit later, right?
I think we might do that, yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so I heard Cecilia, and I know that this is of perfect bathing water quality. But nevertheless, before I take that plunge, I'd like to understand, what's the trick? Denmark's water picture is heavily contrasted. On the one hand, the country only abstracts 9.1% of the yearly water runoffs it receives, which maybe classifies it as a country where local water shortages are possible, but far behind a country like Germany with its 19.5%. But on the other hand, the European Environment Agency states that all of Denmark's groundwater is vulnerable to over-abstraction and is exposed to temporary shortages because of the minimal buffer Denmark's geography lets in the system. Now, one thing's for sure, Denmark is very intentional with its water policies. When the country joined the European Union in 1973, only 23% of its wastewater was treated up to the secondary level, with more than half of it that was simply discharged without any treatment. Today, the picture spectacularly changed. Not only do they have full wastewater collection, but 98% of the wastewater gets treated up to the tertiary level, with respectively 95 and 98% treatment for phosphorus and nitrogen. That's much better than France, the UK or Switzerland. What? You're not convinced yet that the country is special? Wait for it. Denmark reduced its water abstraction from 610 billion cubic meters in 1990 to 360 billion cubic meters by 2015. In Copenhagen, consumption per capita fell from 171 liters per day in 1987 to 135 in 1995 and 100 in 2015, which is what a citizen of Dubai would use in just 4 hours. Meanwhile, according to the World Bank, with an average water price of about $8 per cubic meter, Denmark has the highest tariff in the world. And even the Danish EPA tends to think that they sometimes go over the top as a country. In a 1998 survey, they established that Denmark had complied with the European Wastewater Treatment Directive at a 3 times higher cost than the Netherlands. Another report from 2005 went beyond, showing that it wasn't 3 times more expensive, but almost 5. But honestly, that works. Today, Denmark is the European leader regarding bathing water quality, in case you want to swim with the famous mermaid. The only drawback? By now, the water is probably at 13 degrees. So, would you dare?
If you take,
I heard the rational arguments, but still, I'm not fully convinced. I'd like to understand why. I don't understand the trick, so maybe we should go a bit deeper into that story of Danish water.
Okay,
hi.
I have a guest. I have a guest for you, and let's be polite. Let me introduce you our guest first. All right?
Yeah, please.
We have here Lars Schrøder. He's the CEO from Aarhus Fund. You call it fund.
Perfect.
Welcome, Lars.
Welcome,
Lars. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
We have heard, as Antoine said, I mean, Denmark, all the utilities, they're all best in class. Doesn't matter what you rank for. So what do you do different, and how the utilities outside Denmark, outside Scandinavia, can learn from you?
First of all, I would say I could find lots of issues where we're not the best in class, but still, in general, we do rather good in Denmark. And I think what's special for Danish water utilities is that we have an extremely high resource efficiency. So if you talk circular economy, if you talk sustainability and so on, then the Danish water utilities are really good.
What is the one thing you do different? How do you set goals, or how do you behave, or how do you, choose your technology, your suppliers, your partners? How do you do that?
It's not only one thing. Okay. We've had politicians with very high ambitions when we talk about environment and water especially. So without our politicians, without our government, we wouldn't do what we're doing now. So that's one thing. Another thing is, beside all that very ambitious regulation, is that we in Denmark have had high energy prices. It's very, very expensive, has always been to use energy. So we're concerned about how much energy we use in our utility. That's another very important thing. And beside that, we have very high salaries to the staff. So automatization is an important thing. It's necessary if you will run a good utility.
But if I take a step back on the water side of things, there's one thing I don't understand. It is that Denmark behaves like a water scarce country, which by the international criterion, it's very, very partly is, because you're using 9.3% of the water which falls on your heads. And if you look at your neighbor, Germany, they say we're at 19.5%, it's below 20, everybody's happy. So what was the root reason for Denmark to behave that way?
Really, again, resource efficiency.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're right, we have lots of water. We have 750 millimeter per year. We are surrounded by water. We have lots of groundwater, good quality, and so on, so on, so on. So, in a way, we have lots of water. But to produce 1 liter of drinking water, to clean 1 liter of wastewater, you use energy, you use chemicals, you use lots of resources. So, all resources in Denmark are costly, and you would like to lower your resource consumption in the utility. So I think that's the reason. Even you have lots of water, you should care about leaks, you should care about water consumption, especially nowadays when we talk about sustainability. It's so important.
To get the context, in Aarhus you do water, networks and wastewater with the full circle.
We say we operate the whole water cycle. You know,
Okay.
The water cycle is, I love the water cycle. It's the best example of a circular economy. It's the same water on the world going around again and again and again and again. And if we use it in a proper way and deliver it back in a proper quality, this circularity in the water cycle will continue forever.
I just have something to fact check and then I'll let you to take over. I heard that in Denmark it is forbidden to treat groundwater. Is that true?
It's true. You have to have a permission from the ministry if you want to treat the groundwater more than just aeration and sand filtration.
Okay.
Because our politicians like the idea that what you have in the tap water is pure, clean drinking water.
Special approach, incredible.
Yeah.
But isn't that a little bit a paradox? I mean, especially Denmark. You're surrounded by water. You have thousands of islands. You have rain 3 times a day, even summertime, right? So water is really not the issue. But you are still one of the countries, or let's say with the lowest consumption by the single people, so which is 106 liter per person. So I think it's on the top of Europe, right? Top of the world somehow.
For sure.
And the same, you have one of the highest tariffs.
Yeah.
Isn't that a paradox? Because you're surrounded by water, so you have enough water. Why should I save so much water?
Again, resources. The more water you use, the bigger pipe, the bigger pump, the more energy consumption, the more chemicals, and so on, so on, so on. So I like water. Really, I'm a waterman. But I use all the water I need. I take my showers, I wash my clothes, I'm swimming, I'm bathing, with no concern. I really enjoy the water. But I don't want to use more water than I need. And you see that all over the world. You can use water not only in a household. We use water for industry, we use water for food production. And it's so important that we only, one by one, use what we need and no more than that.
I mean, you're somehow the best in class. How is it? I mean, do you meet each other or the utilities once in a month, let's say, to share your practice? I mean, think about back in school, all the, let's say, the brains were sitting together, right? And all the no brains were doing different stuff, right? That was the earlier years.
Where did you belong?
Well, is it the same? That you are coming together from time to time, exchanging ideas with Stockholm or with other utilities here in Denmark? Or how do you do that? How do you practice that?
We believe strongly in partnerships. So
in partnerships?
Partnerships.
Okay.
So not only meeting, not only drinking a cup of coffee, but really share knowledge, working together, developing together, innovate together. It's very important. And not only with your colleagues from the cities around, or not only with colleagues from Denmark, but of course we have a network in Denmark. We have a network with the big utilities, we have a network with all the utilities, and so on, so on, so on. We have a Nordic network with Sweden and Norway and Finland and Denmark where we meet together. We have a European network. And I think the most important is a global network, to learn from other countries, to learn from colleagues in South Africa, in India, in Australia, wherever, because we have something to bring, all of us.
You mentioned partnerships, and I can't help but to notice that you have pins with the SDGs.
Yes.
You mentioned sustainable several times.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, is there a link between all these elements?
Absolutely. I believe that the SDGs are God's gift to the utility sector. It's very important for us.
That's a strong saying.
Yeah, I really believe. We use it in all our strategy work, and when the UN decided the SDG goals, we invited the Danish former finance minister. He had been in UN as chairman when they developed the SDGs, and he shared his knowledge with all my staff in Aarhus Water, Aarhus Water, as you said correctly. and since that, the SDGs has a big importance for all what we are doing, all 17 SDGs.
I just heard from someone at the ministry just before we started recording that you're the only utility in the world, only wastewater utility in the world to be certified by the SDGs, or what's the exact saying?
We believe that. Certification is a funny thing because in many businesses you just use the diploma and tell your customers, look what I have done. But for us, it's like a school. You have to do better and better, and once a year you have visit by the censor, and he check what you are doing and bring good ideas what you could do even better and so on. So in Aarhus Water we believe in certifications in general. We decided to try to get a certification in the SDGs because we like to learn and we like to use this yearly evaluation of what we are doing with some external partners.
So how does that translate into facts? Do you go after the 17 SDGs or do you pick some which make more sense?
I would like all 17, but it's too much in an organization like ours. So we have picked four of the 17 that has main importance for us.
Which ones?
The first one, the most important one, is goal number 17. That's partnership, as I started before. Partnership
17 partnership.
Yeah.
You said that is the most important one.
Yes. Without partnership, we can do anything.
No number 6 water. No, you said 17.
Yeah,
is the most important.
I start with 17. That's the most important.
That's very interesting.
It's very important for us. And then, of course, we have climate change as a very important one. And then we have sustainable cities. And then we have water and sanitation.
So water is place 4.
Yes, because water and sanitation is our DNA, has been always. And where we can do better is partnerships, climate change, and sustainability in general.
Did we find the secret here? It's partnerships. I mean,
that's
Lars is saying partnership all over the time.
First time I hear that, so it's really interesting. I think we cracked a code here.
I mean, think about the automotive industry. That's my example I'm bringing all the time, right? If let's say BMW and Mercedes, they are developing something together. We see smart devices, things like that, up to a certain point, and then they split.
Yeah.
But then they have a basis, and based on this, they develop further, and then they have their own solution.
Yeah.
That is cooperation. I'm looking for things like this here in the water industry for digitalization since years. Don't see that. Everybody has his own solution.
Yes, exactly.
Let's be very concrete here. How does that translate? What is a partnership for Aarhus Fund?
Yes.
Do I say it right?
Yes, that's Aarhus Water.
Not that
Perfect. You learn Danish. You can also say Aarhus Water. It's okay for me. I believe that global partnerships, when we talk SDGs, are the most important. Because SDGs are for the planet, it's for the world, it's not only for Denmark, it's not only for Aarhus. And the only way we can develop the whole world is working together. And of course we can meet, drink a cup of coffee, but if you make a real partnership, then you share knowledge, you share economy, you share staff, you share all what you own and you're proud of with something you trust in. That's really the way to make the best innovation, the best development, and the best utility. And we do that locally with our politicians, with our university, with our industries. We do it national in Denmark, we do it in the European context, and we do it global. I don't know which one is most important, but partnerships in general.
Let's pick one, not that it's the most important, but how do you partner with the university, for instance?
Oh, to share innovation, really, to be partner in some of the innovation they're doing at the university. You know, in former times, the university did something, the industry did something, we did something, and then a manager from one of the big companies came to us and said, buy our products. And we bought the products, and then maybe he decided he wanted something new, and maybe he asked the university, could you help me for that? But nowadays, we try to make partnerships in the whole innovation circle.
That is some of the secret. I mean, years ago, or let's say in other countries, it is if you want to sell something to the utilities, you knock the door and say, hey, I have something new which is 20% better. Here it is, you have to come into the inner circle. So that means there's a partnership circle with the utility, with the university, with other stakeholders, with whoever. And you have to come into that and you have to bring in that. And then you get maybe one day considered after you got tested, right?
It sounds simple, and it is simple in a way, but you cannot do it if you don't trust each other.
Sure.
You know, for many years we just gave away our knowledge. Now we try to make a professional partnership. That means we also earn a little money to the water utility so we can make new innovation. Because our economic regulation is so tight, I can do nothing. I cannot use 10 øre, Danish øre for anything without they knowing it in the ministry. So I have to earn a little money beside that to develop the utility. Okay. And I do that making partnerships with industries and some commercial thinking people.
If I may challenge you a bit, with Björn we made a little poll here. So we polled about 40 people and we asked them, will there be a utility in the future? They said yes. That was an obvious yes.
Oh, that was a good one
no.
for you.
It was 39 yes, 1 no.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
But then we asked them, do these utility have to change and improve in the future on a scale from 0 to 10? 0, they don't change anything. 10, they turn everything on its head. And the average was at 7.7, which means people, and I know it's not a representative panel, it's just we asked them here, but people tend to think that in light of the challenges ahead, I mean, the water crisis, water scarcity, all these big topics we hear, utilities will have to further improve and keep changing. And the only thing which doesn't change is change. We know that. How does that align with your vision of the next decade or 20 years for Aarhus?
You know, I'm so happy when some people tell me that we are doing good and we are in front, but I know that we can do much more. And when I talk to my colleagues here in Denmark, at least, I don't do it outside Denmark, but in Denmark I say we have to move much faster. We are really a group of old men sitting and feeling we are doing rather good, and why change anything? But we have to change all our thinking all the way through, because the climate change is really a big challenge in the future. We can do something that's good for us here in Denmark or my customers in Aarhus. But if we can do something who could help the whole world to be more resource efficient, to have clean water, clean drinking water, clean wastewater, clean lakes, rivers and clean sea, that would be really important. And if I believe that, if my colleagues in Aarhus Water believe that we can make a change, not only in Aarhus, but in South America, in South Africa, in India, even in the United States, they use much more water than they should. Even in California, where they have scarcity, they use amounts of water for no need, really. And if we could share knowledge with our colleagues over there and learn them to use water in a better way, that's really what we have to do. Even here in Denmark, we believe we're doing good, but we can do much more.
I mean, a little bit the final question is, I mean, there are two ways. If you look if you look on Europe, there are countries where you have 10,000 utilities.
Yeah.
For instance, France, they have thousands. Germany, they have thousands.
Yeah.
If you look into UK, they have 20, something like that.
13.
Whatever number is. Is there a trend that, let's say, we should have more bigger utilities, or do you believe, let's say, we should have some kind of model where even a local town with 10,000 people should have their own municipality and they should be responsible for that? What is the trend in 30 years?
No doubt, we need bigger utilities. The challenges are so big and they are so many disciplinary, if you can say that in English. I hope you understand what I'm meaning.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That we really need to be much more professional. We need specialized staff and so on and so on, much higher than we have now. And you cannot do that in a little utility owned by the people in the village. It's too small. You have to make partnerships with bigger utilities or connect and make a consolidation in the sector. It's really important. You can see in Great Britain, you can see in Netherlands, where they're really developing. You can see in Singapore, all the countries who are in front and who do even better than we do here in Denmark, they have made this consolidation to be professional.
It would be up to debate if UK does better than Denmark. I wouldn't say so.
Yeah, and same with Germany. I mean, they have 10,000 utilities, and I think we are not that bad, right? In terms of quality, in terms of...
They pissed the German.
yeah. But of course, they have some problems in England too. But if you look at developing the sector, they're doing rather good. If you talk about asset management, if you talk about how to make your utility more efficient and so on, then they are really good. They had bad legislation, and we won't do the same for sure, but I still believe that we need a consolidation, not only in Denmark, but all over the world. It's important.
I mean, we talked about challenge. I mean, Lars, I do have a challenge for you as well.
Yes.
First of all, I have to say, I mean, we said in the beginning that Denmark is on the ranking #1 as happiest country, and I haven't seen a person which is smiling as often as you. So you must be a very happy person because you're from Denmark.
Yeah.
So, and the challenge is we have 3 different kind of waters here.
Yeah.
So we have a water from Norway, we have a water from Sweden, and we have a water from your home turf, which is from Denmark.
Yeah.
And the challenge is you have to figure out which one has the lowest hardness.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give me a second.
I like that.
While he's collecting the water, I have a question for you, which is, you mentioned partnerships. If people listening to that would like to start a partnership with you, what's the best way to contact you?
Phone us, call us, meet us. And
so really you're that open to new partnerships?
Yeah, always. And of course, we have to have a goal. There should be a reason for these partnerships. But we have partnerships in all kinds, also commercial partnerships, because it's important for us to continue developing. And I think a good example when we talk about water loss in the system, we're now about 5%, 6%. And colleagues ask me, can you go lower? And I said, yes, we can. Is it costly? No, it's not. You can use pressure
regulation.
Yes, on your pumps, and that will would make a big
You
difference.
can also have pressure regulation valves on the network, but I'll take that discussion offline.
On a different one. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, here are the three different waters,
Yes.
and you have to figure out which has the lowest hardness. Good
Okay,
luck.
skål.
Cheers.
We say in Denmark.
It is not easy. We have to say it's not easy. Did you do the test, Björn?
I did.
Because I did,
I failed.
and I failed. Yeah.
You failed?
Yes. We have to say one of the three waters is very different from the others.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was always expecting, well, that's the one.
You're giving a hint. You're giving a hint.
This one.
I like
is
Lars.
soft.
Right?
Did I do wrong?
And that's exactly what you said. This tastes totally different. Has a hardness of 15, but it is from your home turf. It is from Denmark. But unfortunately, the other one was from, which was it? This is Sweden.
Yeah.
And this one is from Norway. Has a hardness of 2. And believe me or
I
not,
know-
it
I
doesn't taste good. It doesn't taste good. The 15 one tastes better. Cheers.
Normally I like Norwegian water.
Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot, Lars.
It was nice to talk to
Thanks
you.
for being with us.
Have a nice day.
Thanks. The Henriksdal wastewater treatment plant doesn't make any noise, doesn't smell, is almost invisible, uses far less concrete than any other similar plant in the world, and it literally has houses and flats built on top of it. How's that possible? Well, thanks to a simple trick, Henriksdal is built under a mountain. To understand why, we have to go back almost a century in time. In the 1930s, Stockholm started to notice a problem. The water quality of the lake Mälaren was becoming quite troublesome as it received ever-increasing amounts of untreated sewage. So Stockholm Vatten decided it was time to build a wastewater treatment plant. But the land was expensive and expected to further increase in price in the future. So what do you do if you have to increase capacity? That could be costly. Stockholm also features quite a singular geography with Lake Mälaren that meets the Baltic Sea in the middle of 14 islands. So unless you want to pump your water several times around, that adds a hydraulic constraint to your plant. So once all of that was factored in, the incredible best option was to build the wastewater treatment plant directly in the rock under a mountain in Henriksdal. And it actually had welcome side effects. The treatment basins could be considerably deeper, no external water was leaking in, increasing the treatment's efficiency, and that's how in 1941 the plant started operating. The treatment capacity was then doubled in 1953 and extended again in the 60s with the addition of new biological basins. In the 1990s, the aeration tanks were deepened to reach 12 meters in depth without having to dig new rock caverns. But as the city kept growing, environmental regulations strengthening and land prices increasing, Stockholm Vatten initiated the SFA project. The idea was to build a new pre-treatment step beneath the Hammarby Becken ski slope in Sickla, to build a new 14-kilometer sewage tunnel between the Bromma wastewater treatment plant and Henriksdal in order to ultimately close Bromma and to double again the Henriksdal treatment capacity by equipping it with membrane bioreactors. Henriksdal was already the first wastewater treatment plant to be built in rock. Well, it will also soon be the largest MBR plant in the world. And honestly, I may well not have a head for helmets, but visiting this plant was still one of the most incredible experiences in my life.
Really? You look much better with the suit, believe me. Believe me. All right, but this show is not about you. Welcome, Sofia. Welcome, Tommy. Welcome to our show. Let me introduce you for a second. We have here on board, we have Sofia Andersson, from a process engineer from SWECO, correct?
Correct.
Welcome to our show. And we have Tommy Giertz, the lead strategist from Stockholm Vatten och Avfall.
Yeah, exactly.
I tried that in Swedish a little bit.
Perfect, thank you.
So, welcome guys, welcome to our show. We have seen the little introduction about Henriksdal, how that evolves really from the 30s now into the mountain, biggest MBR plant, one of the biggest in the world. Why? Why have you done this? Why have you built this into a mountain? Why have you built one of the biggest MBR plants?
Well, when they planned the Henriksdal plant in the 1920s, it was the logical place because Stockholm was already a big city and this place was close to the city and it was also quite easy to build in the mountain. So, you know, the technology in Sweden with the mines, etc., it's quite long. And the experience is quite long. I guess that's why they chose that place.
But that was the reason for building that in the 20s or in the 30s.
Yeah. So they
but
started.
What about SFA? Why SFA?
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a long story, but it's been. We had two really old plants with really aging equipment and processes that became overloaded because Stockholm has been growing a lot, one of the fastest growing cities in Europe. Of course, something had to be done, so there was some investigation checking for different options and, for example, to expand both, rebuild both of the plants completely. And at the end, this turned out to be the most feasible option to close down Bromma, to free this land, because Bromma wastewater treatment plant is partly outdoors, very near to kind of a commuter center and lots of houses. And since there has to be a security area around the plant too, there's a big land area that cannot be used for housing. To free that land and to upgrade all the processes to meet the new requirements, all this new population, then this was the best option.
You are still under construction, right?
Yes.
So still everything is not done. But so, for instance, if you would look into Germany, if they built a new airport or a new railway station, it takes 10 years, 20 years longer than expected, and is 10 times, more expensive. So how's it going? How's it going, guys?
Well, I think it's going quite good, according to what I have heard. So, but I also would like to say that the Henriksdal plant has also been rebuilt, so to say, every 20, 30 years through the history. So it's not the first time that we are reconstructing the wastewater treatment plant. I don't know if that is a part of it that they decided to continue that. Yeah. Probably. But so far it's a fixed budget and they can't go over that budget.
So you already took the first two lines into service, right? So
First one line.
Yeah. Okay. And how many lines do you have to build in total? 7?
7, yes.
So you have a plan to do like one a year, or how is it going to roll out?
It's going to take a bit more than 1 year to rebuild one, but currently 2 lines are out of operation to be rebuilt. As soon as they are up and running, 2 other will be taken out of operation to be rebuilt, and then the last 2. So it's just the first one that was done as a single line, and then the others will be done 2 and 2. We'll save some time in the construction phase.
And at which point will you decommission Bromma?
When we have 5 lines in operation.
Okay.
And there's also a tunnel to be constructed from the site of Bromma today to the Henriksdal site.
So that's the other crazy thing, is that you're building that tunnel from Bromma to Henriksdal, which are not that far if you're taking a plane, but if you're walking or taking a car, you have to cross the lake, you have to go from one island to another and then again to another. How do you do that? Is it daily bread?
Well, it's not the first tunnel, and
everything seems easy.
Well, the bedrock quality in Stockholm area is quite good, so that's a part of it, of course. You have just to do it, and if you're clever in the management of building these things, then it's not a problem, I would say. The challenging thing is crossing the water, for example. There can be infiltration into the tunnel, and so that's a challenge, yes.
Okay, I mean, we talked a lot today about challenges, right? I mean, we started the show, we asked the people about what are the challenges of the future for the utilities. I mean, one thing I would assume one of the biggest challenges you had in the beginning was to convince the people, which are, living around that mountain, living close to the mountain because of all the constructions ongoing. What about prices? Did you increase the tariffs, or I mean, how did the people reacted on this new huge plant?
Well, there is a customer program, and they are working lots of information. And there's also the tunnel, of course, which is blasted. And there's also lots of communication concerning the tunnel. The tunnel front is always moving, and there are 4 fronts, I guess, now at the same time. So lots of communication. You can get SMS on your mobile phone when there is going to be a blast and things like that. I don't know, but there are some evacuation in Henriksdal. I don't know if it's
there are some houses on top of the mountain where the treatment plant is. So of course, when they were blasting some new tunnels for electrical equipment, it was moving a lot. So people were offered to get another apartment to live in during the most intense periods.
Yeah. How
and
did they
also
react?
They moved one whole kindergarten, was moved to another location temporarily.
They agreed on that, or was there a big demonstration? I mean, think about France. If you would do things like this in France, everybody would go on the street, right?
Yeah,
more or less. But
I think people were not that upset. I mean, some people choose to get another apartment for a while, but most people are at work when most of the work in the mountain is done, so they come back in the evening and then it's quiet and calm, so most people didn't notice much.
So the key was to come over the challenges was really taking the people with, right?
Yeah.
So you informed them, you had some program, you could get some SMS, how's the status, next blast, where's the next, I don't know, hotel, where's the next kindergarten to bring the children to, right?
But of course there's a long process before you start to build with the environment permits, etc. So there's a strict regulation in Sweden. And I would say that normally would be like 5 to 10 years, probably 10 years in reality.
You mentioned that process and the regulations, and you said that the plants needed to be refurbished one way or the other.
Yes.
But is it just about increasing the capacity, or do you also target new pollutants, stricter regulations, or better elimination?
Stricter effluent requirements. They have lowered from 10 to 6 milligram per liter of nitrogen, and from 0.3 to 0.20 milligrams per liter of phosphorus. So it maybe doesn't sound much, but it's a big challenge, of course, process-wise. So it requires more capacity in that sense. And then it's also an expansion because of continuous growth in Stockholm.
There's a program in Stockholm that says we are going to build 140,000 new houses or apartments in like 20 years.
140,000?
Yeah.
And Stockholm is 800,000 inhabitants? How big is it?
1 million in the Stockholm, the city of Stockholm, around 1 million today, yes.
So 140,000 houses, if you consider a household of 2 or 3 people, it means like 30 or 40% more people in the city.
Yeah.
But this is included also some suburbs, I think, or
something. No, that is in Stockholm Kommun. Yeah.
Crazy.
Wow. So that's why the land in the Bromma area is so attractive. It's because of this.
So you can sell that to finance Henriksdal.
Exactly.
That is the key.
Sounds like a part of the equation at least. On the operation side of the story, you had an activated sludge plant.
Yes.
Now you have a hybrid because you have one line of MBRs and the rest is still activated sludge, which might be convenient. How do you see the future where you have 7 lines of MBR? He's the membrane guy.
Yeah.
I'm the layman. So to me, it sounds like something which might be challenging to operate. Is that true?
We haven't gotten there yet, so we don't really know, of course. But we have been we've been running a pilot for almost 10 years with membranes, and there is just one line, and we follow kind of the inflow fluctuations and everything. So it's acting pretty similar, and it's worked really well. You can manage a lot of fluctuations as well. Of course, it could be beneficial to have a hybrid, but I think I don't see any big problems to have a full MBR either, actually.
I'm pretty sure that the supplier of the Savic membranes would disagree on that, right? They want to make sure that all the membranes get supplied. So,
yeah,
but
probably.
let's say I can't let you go without asking the question. I mean, we talked about challenges of the utilities. We have also the challenges of, let's say, the suppliers of the technologies, and you are here because you are somehow representing the utilities because you already are. So if I am a technology provider, for instance, a new one, I'm coming with a fancy new thing to the market. For instance, I have a MBR which is double in flux and in operation as the Savic ones. How can I get your attention, guys? I mean, same if I have a cool sensor, if I have a cool pump, which is better than the market player. All these startups, they are struggling coming to the final customer, which is the utility. So how can they come into the game? Why, or let's say other way around. Why have you chosen the Savic ones?
Well, it was a public procurement process, so it was a 2-step process. So the first step was just some requirements for the company. They have to be able to produce large enough volumes, and
I mean,
all of that
to ensure. I mean, this is one of the biggest plants in the world. There are not so many who can deliver that.
Exactly, and there had to be also references, and they had to have an office in Sweden so we can have easy access and good communication. After that, they had to prove by a layout and kind of a process plan that they could fulfill the required capacity. And then it came down to the price for the ones who managed.
If I produce, I mean, I can this volume. I mean, scale effect, right? I mean, pretty easy to get the best price. But for, let's say, take it in general. Go a little bit away from just seaweed. In general, how important is the technology really? That it is 10%, 20% better than the one which is already on the market.
I don't know if we could pinpoint a figure like that, but for example, we are putting like 1% into research and development.
1% of the total what? Revenue?
Yeah, revenue, yes. Meaning that there are like 10 to 15 developing engineers that works full time with new technology. And of course they are in contact with the suppliers, etc. But there's also lots of work with the university in Stockholm, KTH, and things like that. And we are also connected into Sweden Water Research in Skåne. And they also have an innovation company called WIN. We are joining them now. Of course, there is something happening on regular basis in the daily work. But the important thing is that you give some kind of certain employees, the time to work with these questions, yes.
Beyond the technical aspect of things, I could imagine that this is typically the kind of project where nobody will notice it happening apart from the people who have to move because of the blasts. But all the rest of the people will just, okay, they are doing their stuff. But if whatever happens in the project, then all of a sudden it's going to be like a very big topic, which makes the news, which makes everybody thinking, what did they do? So I guess the reference aspect and the confidence the company has in their track record. By the way, you choose excellent piping systems, I have to say. No, but jokes aside, I would imagine that plays a role.
Sorry, what the question was?
Yeah.
I just lost it in the...
Let me ramble.
Yeah,
I don't need to have questions. No, actually, I have a question on that, on the split of responsibilities and the split of works. You do work for SWECO now.
Yes. And very recently switched from Stockholm Vatten, so...
how is the split of responsibilities and following of such a project between the utility, the consultant engineer, the EPC contractor taking over and suppliers, and then the base suppliers, like when we are supplying a valve, we never speak with you.
Yeah.
Wouldn't make sense. So, is there some good practices over that project that you could share?
I think it's quite standard how it's done in Sweden in this kind of projects,
okay.
To my knowledge.
Standard in Sweden might not be standard for everyone, so still I'm interested.
Well, usually there will be a consultancy company doing the process design initially, and that in that case was SWECO. And then there will be an entrepreneur responsible for the construction and also kind of procuring of all these valves and pumps and whatever. So there was a public procurement for the biological treatment line and another one for the membranes.
And so one went to Purak and the other to Suez.
Okay. Yes. And then, of course, once the line, this new MBR line, once it was in operation and everything had been tested and all the requirements were fulfilled and, then it was handed over to the operational staff. But until then, it was on kind of the project, this SFA project organization. There's no one who actually has a full process responsibility except for Stockholm Water Company or Stockholm Vatten.
Okay.
So if there is something wrong with the original process design, there is no one who can be responsible. Although Suez is, of course, responsible for that their membranes work and that they can treat as much water as they should. But if, for example, the process doesn't work, so they are overloaded with ammonia or something, or COD, that makes them clog more, then that's up to Stockholm Vatten.
We are talking about challenges, so what is your biggest challenge now with Henriksdal?
If we talk about this new MBR line, I think the biggest challenge is a floating sludge in the biological parts, the treatment line, mainly because there were some sludge removal devices installed, but they were not installed correctly and they did not function in the beginning, and then there was a buildup of sludge floating, and now they have been adjusted and they work, but it takes some time to get a balance, to find a good balance in how much sludge to take out.
I would have a last question which draws a bit on your question. You mentioned how Henriksdal has been revamped every 10 or 20 years, and you mentioned how you have 15 development engineers which are looking into the future and which are willing to do innovation. So I do know that you still have just one line done out of the 7, but what happens next? Do you already start planning?
No, we are currently running an investigation concerning the situation in 2070, so 50 years forward. So that's quite interesting. What will the situation be in 50 years?
So what will the situation be?
We don't know yet. But we have done, the baseline now. That took 1 year. What are the figures today? And now we have started to looking forward a bit. So that is really challenging. How would the society look in 50 years? Will there be new environmental laws, etc., or would the water and sewage be organized in another way in Sweden? Today it's organized by the city. A commune. Can it be like in the UK? We don't know. So that's on the agenda
so
now.
Privatization might be in the talks, and you have to consider all these possibilities to draw a roadmap towards 2070.
Of course, and also the technology. And we are also talking about small source separating systems. On the other hand, we have today the big scale thing. So biogas, for example, is it the best way to produce biogas in a central plant, or shall we localize it in the distributed system, or in the new housing areas, for example?
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Finally, we have a challenge for you guys, because you are the experts, right? You are water experts. Are you? I think so.
Of course.
So
don't drink too much. You will see why.
The challenge is we have water from 3 different sources. We have one from Denmark, we have one from Sweden, and we have one from Norway. So. And the challenge is you have to figure out which one has the lowest hardness.
Okay.
The lowest hardness. And you do this not by analyzing, by tasting. Okay? You ready?
Sure.
Of course.
While he's grabbing the water, I had the pleasure to visit that plant because, as I hinted, we were supplying some parts of the plant. Is it up for visits if people want to see it in the real life?
Henriksdal?
Yep.
Well, right now it's not, because it's a construction site, since we are reconstructing 2 other lines and also some things with the digesters. So it is not really safe to bring in groups of people. So in general, no big groups. They could make maybe exceptions for like small, specially interested persons if they contact them. But
so you heard her. If you're a special person, you might have a chance.
Yeah.
So your choice. Okay. You have the water in front of you. One has the lowest, one a middle one, and a pretty hard one. So and you have to find the lowest hardness. Good luck. He's an expert. He's smelling.
I can tell you.
Look at the color as well.
I didn't find, so I'm the layman. Everybody knows that. So
you're the guy with the stupid helmet, right?
We'll make jokes about that for 20 years.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. For once, it's not my basement, so it's already that.
There's one that
You're
is
saying this one, okay?
I say there's one that is quite odd, and it's the middle one.
Is what? Old?
Quite odd.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's
a bit
different
from the other ones.
Yeah. That one is quite soft. So I would say that one.
You're saying this has the lowest hardness.
Yeah.
You are right that one of the 3 is very different. So that's
I think
something.
this one is different. But
Okay, that's the one with the highest hardness. It's from Denmark with the hardness of 15.
But it's a very different one. So
Yeah.
because
So
that one is groundwater.
No, he's wrong.
I was
he's
wrong.
totally wrong.
I had
He's
the
totally
opposite.
wrong.
okay, sorry.
But that one is groundwater, and the
Yeah.
2 others are surface water.
Yeah.
So it's different.
Yeah.
So now we're checking Sofia. What can I say? She's the winner of today.
Wow!
This water is from Norway and has a hardness of 2. Congratulations, you have won a trip around here and you can go to the conference for free.
Wow, nice. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Great prize.
Thank you guys. Thank you,
Thanks a lot.
Sofia.
Thank
Thank you, Tommy,
Fascinating
for being here.
to dive with you. And
Thanks a lot.
Hope to see you soon.
Hope to see
Thank
you
you.
soon. Thank you. Wasn't that cool? Henriksdal, one of the biggest MWA plants in the world, and they told us the secrets and how they have chosen everything and things like that. How
And
cool is
still
that?
there's this element of this Dr. No cavern, it's like that plant is crazy. Honestly, I almost have goosebumps to just tell the story of that plant because it's such an impressive visit. But beyond that, what I'm taking here as a take-home message is that it can be tricky to overcome a challenge like how would you deal with a 30% increase in population? Yeah. And you need to find some help to get the answers to those questions. Do you have a best practice which you can take out from what our 2 first guests have been sharing?
They shared one thing. I mean, both did same, right? Especially Lars from Aarhus said, partnership is one thing.
Absolutely.
That is, I mean, we never heard that, right? I mean, everybody in our industry and outside, if it is about water, it is SDG 6. But he said clearly, hey, that's number 4 for them. Number 1 is partnership.
SDG 17, yeah.
17 is partnership. And maybe conferences like, I mean, we're here at the IWA conference, right? So maybe conference can help. But the question is really, do we need 1 conference? Do we need 10 others?
When you bump into people here that tell you, oh, and where do you go next? Do you go to WestTech?
Yes.
Do you go to that conference in Riyadh, to that conference in Los Angeles, to that conference in Sydney about desalination? And there was Aquatech, and there was IFAT, and there was Akema, and there was Singapore International Water Week, and so far and so on. And some of the best people here are almost a circuit speaker in the sense that they do all these conferences. But how do you extract the most value? Probably not by being touring all the time. So I'm wondering, is that the role of IWA, do you think?
Well, at least they will try to do something like that. They have their groups, they have their memberships, they have the conference like here. Maybe we should go around and have a look about this conference here. Maybe we can find someone who can explain a little bit more what IWA is about and how that works. Okay,
let's do that.
Perfect. So welcome Cecilia, welcome Dragan to our water show live here, or not live, but let's say from the DHI booth here from the IWA. Quick introduction, right? That's a polite way. So we have here Cecilia Wennberg, which is the Executive Vice President for Water in Cities from DHI. Welcome Cecilia.
Welcome Cecilia.
And we have Dragan Savic, the CEO of KWR, Water Cycle Research Institute, and former chair of the IWA Digital Water Program Committee.
Welcome, Dragan.
Welcome, Dragan.
Thank you.
Dragan, first question to you. What is the role of the IWA for the water industry?
IWA is a membership organization and it works for the benefit of that membership. So, spreading the word about best practices, about the innovation in the water sector, about changes necessary in governance, in other areas, but in our case, particularly in the digital water transformation of the water sector, really.
So on that digital transformation, you were in the same group, so the subgroup of the IWA, which you were leading. What's the role of a subgroup for the layman, so for me?
Together with Cecilia, we were in that committee that was trying to come up with all the best ideas from the digital water sector, create white papers to share with the membership, showing what are the innovative ways, tools that we could or that have been also applied in practice, not just theoretical, but real ones. So one of the initiatives that Cecilia brought was that we have a list of case studies that we can share with the membership.
I have a quite direct one for you, Cecilia, which is you have a company which might have an agenda in such a subgroup. So how is it to sit together with people who might be your competitors, who might be your customers? Does it change the relationship you have with them?
I think from my personal perspective, IWA is, again, going back to what Dragan just said, is a membership organization. So the engagement there is very much coming from us as individuals, as persons. We have our own drive to be part of IWA because it enhances our knowledge base, our opportunities in the industry and our network. So that's the starting point. Then of course DHI is also there. DHI has an agenda in this and there is a good reason why we are engaging in the digital committee of IWA. Looking at DHI and how we work, we've always been supporting the knowledge sharing, the capacity building and the benchmarking. So for us it's not new to be in a peer group of colleagues, competitors, whatever you call it. It's just natural for us. And we think that drives, and really in the end, we all benefit from that, collaborating together.
And that's so much interesting because we have heard this today, right, from Aarhus. Even Aarhus is saying partnership is pretty much important, and you are saying same, right?
SDG 17.
SDG 17 is about partnership, and you are saying IWA doesn't matter whether there are some other competitors. Cooperation, collaboration is the most important factor. Isn't that one of the keys for the industry, that we should come closer together? For instance, I have the automotive industry. They are developing something up to a certain point and then they split. But then they have a basis. Shouldn't we have something similar for the water industry?
I could say, first of all, we are in the water crisis. Climate crisis is really exemplified in water, so we need to act. And digital is something that we have to strive at, but also it's how do we organize ourselves. Water crisis is also a governance crisis. I think this is where IWA comes in. This is where we come in together in these partnerships, because you cannot have a governance structure
without partnerships. And I was really inspired by the high-level panel on Monday. Somebody said super partnerships.
I've heard that.
Yeah, we need to look into creating these super partnerships if we want to move forward, if we want to get out of this water crisis.
Cecilia, I mean, you're from Denmark, right? You're from here, or let's say Scandinavia. You have a very good overview. We talked about that. Denmark, Scandinavia is always on the top, right? Happiest country, sustainable, always on the top. So what can we learn in terms of cooperation, or what can you deliver? What others outside Scandinavia, outside Denmark, can be taken, for instance, for the utilities?
So I think from the Danish water industry, if we take that as the starting point, is that there has always been a strong partnering between the companies and collaboration. We are going out together in the world, supported by the foreign affairs or by whatever alliances that are set up by the Danish state, and they're of course supporting also financially, but we've always been going as a team, as a group. And then once the details come in, we manage it maybe separately, but we go as a team and we are strong as a team. That is a good learning, I think, overcoming the potential differences that we have or different opinions. There's another thing I wanted to connect to what Dragan said, is that also came up in one of the keynotes. I think it was one of the keynotes on Monday, is that again, with where we are today with the water crisis, partnerships are crucial and they need to go beyond the water industry. The water industry cannot solve this alone. I think that's also a change, also in the IWA mindset, maybe, that we are expanding the partnerships, the contacts, the network, also to go very much outside of the direct water industry. So that's a key for the future.
I think also we don't have all the knowledge in one or two organizations. That's why we need partnerships. Everybody brings something to that partnership.
So I would have two challenging questions. So sorry, I have to be the devil's advocate a bit. You mentioned the word water crisis, and I think we can all agree that there is arguably a water crisis. In a water crisis, is the priority of the word to look at the way we go digital with water? Isn't that a first world problem?
So I think we had a good discussion yesterday on this. What does digital mean in terms of what can we implement in different parts of the world to overcome the water crisis? And there was a comment from a lady. She said, watching all these digital solutions that she has now been presented to during the conference and working a lot in developing countries, her first immediate reaction was, wow, this could never be done. It's too expensive. We are not there. We are not able to bring this in. I think talking digital, that's again one of the challenges of the digital water, is to find those solutions that are cheap, smart, and easy to implement. And perhaps we are not yet there, but that's really the other side of the coin in terms of digital water to solve the water crisis. But again, digital is not the one solution.
Well, I could only say that the digital tools or innovation doesn't only come from the first world, if you wish. So there are innovations in Africa, in India, that we could learn from. For example, digital water kiosks in India are really interesting. You get a kiosk that is connected to IoT, that has solar power on top, treats water, and like a bank teller, you put your card or your money in and you draw water from it. In Africa, the biggest penetration of digital is mobile phones. So now people who don't have a bank account, they can pay for water services through their phones. So it's not just the realm of the developed world.
He said something very interesting. Cheap, smart, and easy, right? So how are the Danish or the Scandinavian utilities with that? With the smart, easy, and what was the other one? Fast solutions.
I think it's again also in Scandinavia we have a wide diversity of utilities. For us, the larger ones, the big ones, which might be small in a global context, but for us they are the big ones. Yeah. They are less than 10, from 500,000 to 1 million inhabitants. But then we also have a quite large group of very, very small utilities with their own challenges. So they're being remotely located. They also need to find these solutions with mobile digital solutions. They have a different infrastructure, and they are also working with implementing these smart solutions which can help them and that are perhaps not that expensive, but really can bring some value to how they can be more efficient in their management of the water.
Which leads me to my second challenging question actually, which is, you mentioned these 10 utilities in Denmark. or in Scandinavia, which are a bit leading the way. And you said that Scandinavia is somehow anyways leading the way. I would say IWA, if you attend the Congress, probably you're in the 1-2% of the people which are really early adopters within the water industry. And within those 1-2%, I would expect the digital persons to be, again, the early adopters among the early adopters. So on one hand, awesome, kudos, because you are making that ball roll and you're bringing the full topic forward. On the other hand, how do you transfer from this early 0.1 or 0.2% of the industry, and how do you deploy so that you really address those water challenges and you bring it to the masses? What's the go-to market?
Just a comment there, I think we should also be humble because there is also a lot of innovative utilities around the world and we are learning from them. We see ourselves as leading in some cases, but there are really a lot of good examples across the world, not least in Asia and the US, Africa, as you mentioned. IWA is a great event in that case because we are learning from each other. So it's not just one party coming in or bringing in whatever leading knowledge that is, but we are also learning from the others.
Back to collaboration, SDG 17,
yes.
Yeah.
So when it's about go-to-market, I think it's again through the partnerships, we try to identify where is it that the solutions we might have make sense and where they might get traction and interest. And then in some other markets, they have great solutions on their own or already in place. So that's the balance of this of the water industry.
But still, you're an innovator, Dragan. You even came here by hydrogen car, if I'm right.
Yes,
so
that's correct.
Don't you sometimes get frustrated because you would like things to go faster?
Yes, and I agree with you. We're not going fast enough. But I also want to remind all my colleagues in the digital world or digital water world that it's not about technology, actually. It's about people. Mm-hmm. And we forget that. We kind of focus on the technological side of things and it works and we want it implemented and get frustrated when it doesn't get adopted. And I would just draw an example from the history of technology when we used to have VHS tapes. So
he don't know VHS anymore.
Okay, he's very young. Yes, I know. VHS tapes. So you had the machine that you put your tape in and you reproduce your video on TV. So VHS tapes were not the best technology at the time. There were Betamax that were better. But the VHS was released into open kind of technology by their inventors, and everybody copied it and everybody used it. Technology may be good, maybe less kind of top, depends how we manage to integrate it with the human, both people at the utilities, the top bosses that they have to accept, but also the people that are going to use the technology. So for me, technology plus this human element, that's the key to success.
But that's a perfect bridge, Dragan. I mean, we all know, let's say if I am a supplier, technology supplier or whatever, I have developed something new, something fancy, which is better than the dominant market player, call it this way. And the end goal is to bring it to the utility or to the industrial end client, right? If I am having something really cool, which is better than the market, how can I come to the people from the utilities, which each and every technology supplier is struggling with, because they are fighting in windmills against the dominant players, again, people who, let's say, have a closed mindset, call it this way. So how can I, as a technology supplier, if I have something really fancy, IOW, something with artificial intelligence, something like that, if I'm really coming to the market, how can I reach out to the utilities?
I can give you an example. In the Netherlands and Flanders, we have joint research program with these organizations. Partnerships again. They come together, they bring their investment, and then together we get the results of that investigation, of that research. Going alone, the big boys can do that. But the smaller, inventive organizations, startups, they have to look into partnerships. That's the only way.
Do you would agree with that? Because you have the experience from the industry as well. I mean,
yes,
you're serving the industry.
The way there's also a growing opportunity with innovation, let's say tendering and prospecting, which is happening also in the water industry and not least within the utilities. So they are seeing the opportunity to use this as a way to, again, engage partners. So it's not just one provider, but several providers in testing and innovating around possibly new technology. And that's where a provider like DHI can come in. We can bring in what we have, and we kind of explore it and develop it in a partnership context again, getting a lot of good feedback, and that's how we can improve the technology. So the utilities are also becoming very innovative in that sense, that they are finding ways to finance the innovation. Aarhus Water was also mentioning that in the speech by Klaus Holmen yesterday.
You mentioned a couple of keynotes. You mentioned that speech just now seconds ago. If you had to take one single take-home message from this Congress in Copenhagen, what would it be for each of you? Just one.
Yes, just one, only one. Well, I put down a note yesterday, and that was partnerships. That was really what I wrote down from one of the keys. That was partnerships.
Again, partnerships.
That's the one I would take home.
Maybe it's
personally.
the easy one, but it's really the one. I was going through my notes, and that's really one of the key that I put down.
Dragan?
Well, that one is taken now, so I have to come up with a different one. And I would say that water security is multidimensional and enduring human goal, and for me that equates to SDG 6. And that water security cannot be achieved without us getting together both this partnership human side of things and technological side of things.
You mentioned SDG 6, we've talked about SDG 17. That full event was a bit revolving around the SDGs, and what I liked personally is to see it was not focused on SDG 6. It was really broader than that, and to say water is integral to end poverty, having sustainable cities, and so far and so on. So that is a message as well, which we don't see every day. I mean, we always hear water industries about SDG 6.
Absolutely, I fully agree. Fully agree. I mean, as we heard the first time from Aarhus that they are saying number 17, I was really surprised. And you are saying same. You are saying key message, partnership, 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 partnership. So pretty interesting. One final question. Are you happy, Cecilia?
I'm very happy.
Because you're living in the happiest country of the world. You must be happy, right?
So I have a small secret for you, you know?
Okay, tell me.
I'm actually Swedish.
But okay, but it belongs to...
But we are not as happy as the Danes. But when I'm in Denmark, I'm very happy.
Okay, finally, I have a challenge for you guys. We have water here from Norway, we have from Sweden, from your home country, and from Denmark. And you as experts, you have to figure out which one has lowest hardness. Are you in?
The lowest hardness.
Hardness, okay. Yeah, this is when the expert fails.
Of course we do.
So,
of course we do.
Dragan, that's for you. You have to drink everything out because we have to look underneath.
Ah, because you put some numbers on them. Okay.
Lowest hardness, so that is a challenge.
So if you have to jump out from your next panel, people will know why. It's because we forced you to just drink a stupid amount of water.
Yes.
It's very chill now, you know that?
So what is the prize you can win, Antoine?
My deepest admiration, honestly.
So you're saying
but
this
you're
one?
looking for the less one, right?
Less one.
So
lowest?
I will take that
Lowest?
one, yes.
Okay.
Björn, the results?
Dragan? Oh, that's the hardest one. That was the water from Denmark, hardness 15.
Okay.
So, Cecilia. Oh, in the middle, you have chosen Sweden with a hardness of 5.
So the Norwegian one was the one.
Exactly,
Yes.
they had a hardness of 2. Thank you, Cecilia. Thank you, Dragan.
Thanks a
for
lot.
stopping by, for being part of our show, for answering the question. Thanks a lot, and we are really looking forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks.
Pleasure.
So Antoine, I mean, the conference has come to an end. We had 3 amazing days. We saw a lot. What is your takeaway?
I'm taking a lot from what we heard, but let me synthesize it that way. Water is at the center of many different things. We've heard from Aarhus how there's water, but there's also energy, and there's also sustainability. And you need to put water at the center to connect the dots. And that's why you reduce consumption, and that's why you have high tariffs. What we've heard from Henriksdal is pretty amazing as well, in the sense that you have urbanization, which is going at a galloping rate. And that means also something you have to take into consideration when you're thinking about water management and wastewater management. So that is really what I'm taking home. It's really about all those things connect together and the dots have a line in between.
You know what I'm taking with? Is about the partnership. Whoever we talk to, they always said something about partnership, especially Lars from Aarhus, but all other guests we talked to as well. They had always this element of partnership. So that means the utilities, they really built a kind of inner cycle. So that means they are working together with the university, with the industry, with stakeholders, with whoever, research institutes, right? to build, to find solutions. They share their ideas, they share their knowledge, they share their results. And then everybody can grab that and then they go their own way to implement that or not. And that was so fascinating for me to see that. Looks for me, that is one of the keys why they are so successful, why they are always ranked on the top.
And probably IWA is the right platform to gather all of that, what we heard from Dragan and Cecilia as well. And honestly, when I hear all of that, I have to say I'm pretty convinced that I will finally use that duck and go take that plunge. So, Björn, I'll let you close that show. And it was good to be here with you. So see you soon. I'm out for a good plunge.
Have fun. So I hope so much that he can really swim. So for all others, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. If you have any question, if you want to share a comment, if you want to share your thoughts, you know where to reach out. Thank you and see you very soon next time.
I have to say, they all convinced me and life is short anyway, so let's go.
Oh my goodness!